Last 48 seconds defies all logic. I could do a 30 for 30 on Naismith's putback dunk. That was an inflection point. Cleveland's turnovers, Max Strus is particularly brutal. No shots attempt by the Cavs the final 48 seconds. And then the league's most overrated player, as voted on by players, take that for motivation, Tyrese Halliburton. His missed free throw, though. Check this out. Freeze it. Did he get in too quick? Either way, what followed after, you've seen a million times by now. The coldest shot in Pacers history. Another crown for Halliburton. His dad must have torn up his own living room, yelling at the fireplace mantle. Kenny Atkinson on the Cavs collapse. We ran out of gas. J.A. Adonde, your tank is full. What did we just witness?
I mean, well, it's appropriate that it was 30 years ago today that Reggie Miller scored 8 points in 9 seconds in Madison Square Garden, because we just saw something that really was the equivalent of that, the utter improbability. We also saw on the Cleveland side, you know, the downside of having Donovan Mitchell as your best player, who carried them so far through that game, but the lack of size, I think, played a big role in some of those offensive rebounds as well. But I think you just have to give it to the Pacers and just, they're determined. You know, they're like some, as Bart Simpson would say, some never giving up school principal guys. Like, that's how determined they are. And now we can expect this, right? If you do it twice in a week, it doesn't matter if it only hasn't been done 3 times.
Or you're expecting another one of these? I don't know. Easy Romeo, some might say. David Dennis Jr. around the horn to you on what we just witnessed.
Yeah, it's not just the anniversary of Reggie Miller's 8 points. There's also today the anniversary of Jordan hitting the shot against Cleveland. So maybe the universe was conspiring for a little bit of magic in all of this. When this first happened to Milwaukee in Game 5, we talked a lot about Milwaukee and the way that they choked that away. But when it happens twice, you have to put the focus on the Indiana Pacers and the way that they execute down the stretch, namely Tyrese Halliburton, who has emerged as the second coming of Reggie Miller in terms of the way that his clutch performance in the playoffs have gone. This season, he is 10 for 11 in shots to tie or go ahead in the last 2 minutes of games this season. That is unreal. We have a real-life playoff threat with this Pacers team, especially if the Cavs cannot get healthy in time to make it.
I don't know why I put the algorithm up there like it was such complex mathematics. 10 of 11, which is just
10-11.
Unbelievable. Mina Kimes, what do we witness?
I mean, just clutch greatness. David's absolutely right. I was actually on the show after they did it to the Bucks, and I do remember we talked about the Bucks choking. We talked about how it was like historically unprecedented. Oh my gosh, it couldn't possibly happen again. It happened again. And when that happens at a certain point, you got to point to the player because it's obviously in Halliburton's DNA. That said, I'm not damning the Cavs the same way I did the Bucks, which is to say I don't think it's a choke job, because I think Coach Atkinson is right. They were gassed, and obviously they were missing a bunch of their players, Mobley, Garland, Hunter, and it really started showing up in the fourth quarter. They just weren't able to go up for rebounds. They were taking bad shots. They were playing bad defense, and really this was the result of that.
All right. That's some excuses Cleveland's way. Tim, they didn't attempt a shot in the final 48 seconds. The turnovers. Go ahead, please. Floor is yours.
Yeah, they went the University of Houston route at the end, and that's never good in the final minute when you don't get shots off. But, you know, 2011, Rick Carlisle was hailed as something of a genius when his Dallas team beat the first edition of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Then he took about a decade off from winning playoff series. Wasn't all his fault. People have been reminded last year and this year he can really coach. His teams are creative offensively. And, man, this team plays harder than any Dallas team I ever remember. That team didn't give up. They're 7 down inside of a minute. And Nembhard and Nesmith and all those guys are just making plays and steals and maybe committing some lane violations, but everybody commits lane violations. So that's not that big a deal.
Okay.
And as you said, Halliburton showing the world he's not overrated.
Donde, back to you. What a shock to the senses for the Cavaliers, because they set the NBA record for point margin in a series just a week ago, and now down in the way that they are, 0-2, and half the roster, a MASH unit at this moment. Is it as bad as it sounds, down 0-2, Jay?
It is, and you know, Kenny Atkinson gave a lot of credit to Luck for why they had such a successful season. He didn't say, just give me the credit, I'm the coach of the year. He says, look, they're unlucky right now. The one thing they can take from the past is that the Knicks were able to bounce back from some of those Reggie Miller daggers in the past and either win the series or force it to a Game 7. So it's not complete.
All right, we don't need to go back to the Knicks 35 years ago. David Dennis Jr., is it as bad as it sounds for the Cavs right now?
It's really bad, especially when we look at the fact that Donovan Mitchell may be dealing with his own calf strain. You got to feel for him as well for the season that he's had. And, we have the stats of how bad he does when he shoots more than 30 times. He had 48 points last night and carried that team. And for them to lose in that manner and him have an injury, it's terrible, terrible for him.
Terrible. Mina, is there any hope for Cleveland?
Considering the fact that the Pacers were 12-0 this season when they were up 2-0 in series, I'm not feeling good if I'm Cleveland. And then you compound that, of course, with the injuries, which I think got them to this point. That was a game they could not afford to lose, and then they lost.
Is this a clean sweep? Everybody's now on Indiana? Tim, is it over?
I don't think the series is going to be a sweep. I think Indiana's going to win the series. I think Mobley and Garland have to come back and give them a chance. Donovan Mitchell, we saw, can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Have you learned nothing from Bill Plaschke in our 23 years of Around the Horn? We'll move on. NFL trade. The Cowboys like China in a bull closet, clanging through the NBA and NHL playoffs to give us headline 2. The trade for George Pickens to place him at wide receiver 2 opposite CeeDee Lamb. It was a third-round pick going back Pittsburgh way. Pickens, we all know, has the ability and has had the moments in this league, putting it all together, though, and now he's also on the last year of his contract. Surely we won't hear about that ever again. Tim Cowlishaw, not surprising. It's a splashy move for the Cowboys. Is it a good move?
Tony, I want to get this in once in my 23 years on the shows. The Cowboys did something brilliant. The Cowboys fleeced another team in a trade. I don't think I've ever said that before. Check your tapes going back to 2002. When you can get George Pickens, let's just talk about him on the field. When you can get him as your number 2 receiver, all of a sudden the Eagles' top 2 receivers aren't better than your top 2 receivers anymore. All of a sudden you've caught up to a lot of teams, pretty much everybody, as far as the top 2. Now, is George Pickens terminally unhappy, or was he unhappy in Pittsburgh with the quarterbacks and all the things that went on there, and the fact that Mike Tomlin has trouble dealing with unhappy players? I don't know. If Dak and CD and all these guys can't keep him happy, that's on the Cowboys to do that. It's on Brian Schottenheimer.
I love this move.
He's a terrific player. Their number 2 receiver yesterday was Jonathan Mingo. Today it's George Pickens. That's an enormous difference.
Timmy loves it. Mina Kimes, how about you?
I'm a little bit more tempered in my praise of the Cowboys. I do like it because they obviously needed a receiver, and it was very unlikely they would get one like George Pickens, who over the last couple of years is tied with Justin Jefferson for the most catches on 20 air-yard plus throws. He's a big play machine who pairs really well with CeeDee Lamb and a quarterback in Dak Prescott who likes to throw, aggressive and downfield. But I don't think they fleece Pittsburgh, because I do think you can look at this from Pittsburgh's